I feel really honored, and I'm so grateful for you to have invited me to come and share a few thoughts with you. I have heard speakers here, trying to make me appear or sound better than I am. I'm not a luminary, I'm not a bright jurist, I'm not anything of the sort that they have said about me. I'm a very humble boy, because I don't want to grow up. I'm a very humble boy from Madina. This invitation came at a time when I was preparing to go home this weekend. And I must tell you that bringing me here was quite a struggle. I tried every trick in the book not to come here. I gave every excuse that I could possibly think of not to come here. But the organizers, in collaboration, or should I say conspiracy, with our PRO, Ms. Tepi, what can I say? Tepi Jangome. Anytime when you want to get in contact with me, you must contact her. She knows her way around to my office. I'm happy to be in your midst this evening and to share some thoughts with you on a subject that is profound for the existence and survival of our destination as a democracy. You did not take notes because my thoughts have been reduced to writing. I have them on WhatsApp. As soon as I'm done, I will avail them to the organizers. The subject of today is very important to the nation of Botswana as a democracy. I say this because the role of the media in the destiny of any nation, particularly a developmental state such as Botswana, is indispensable. Before I go too far, let me turn to the theme of this day. The first part, which is cast in very, I don't know how to describe it. I'm not a particularly intelligent person. I was confused, I must tell you, because the theme talks of reporting in the brave world. The media's role, amongst many, is to hold those in positions of power and responsibility to account. In short, the media is an oversight body. Now, as an oversight body, it must be possessed of three characteristics. The first one is courage, the second is independence, and the third is integrity. And this is only for purpose of my discussion. I know there are many others. The first part of your theme speaks of bravery, or has in it the word brave, and it says brave new world. It assigns bravery, in my understanding anyway, to the brave new world. And it seems to me, you will pardon me if I'm wrong, because I've said I'm not a very intelligent person. It seems to me not to be referring to the journalist. I thought the journalist should be the one who should be brave. But the job of a journalist requires courage to, amongst others, speak truth to power, investigate and unearth corruption. That is why courage is a virtue for a journalist, without which we may, at best, in the absence of courage, call you reporters and not journalists. May I have, I left my bottle there. Thank you so much. I therefore call upon you to pause and reflect, particularly on your chosen role in holding those with their hands on the levers of power in the last almost 6 decades of our democracy. No. I thought I brought you to come and open bottles for me. Now you are not playing your role, but I'll check it that it is youthful exuberance. Let us immediately turn our focus on the second attribute of an oversight body, such as yourselves, as already stated. On this aspect, in contemporary Botswana, the mainstream media, of which you are a part, exist under two forms, the private media and the state media. I will for now not focus my attention on the state media, and this I think is for obvious reasons. The challenges that have been stated here by Renkwana about low salaries, working under very difficult conditions and all stuff, I don't think, but they will pardon me if I'm wrong. I don't think those challenges really will affect the state media or the public media. So that is why for now I will ask for your permission that I only concentrate on the private media. I often stand and wonder whether you prefer to be called the private media or an independent media. But from where I stand, and through your deeds, you are a private media who aspire, I think, to be independent. If I speak out of 10, you will excuse me. I told you I'm not very, very intelligent, so sometimes I will say things here. But there are impediments to the attainment of independence. The first and obvious impediment to independence is lack of financial muscle, which impacts very negatively on your ability to effectively carry out your mandate. So this explains why you may want to be independent, but you may not be able to be independent. So I'm not accusing you. The economic realities of Botswana are such that government is in possession of more resources than the private sector. And the private press needs government business through advertising and other forms of investment by government in the private media. History will attest that when investigative journalism unearthed some inconvenient truths about those then in government, the response was to stop government advertisement in certain private media houses. The result has been a slow but noticeable death in investigative journalism. The consequences of the death of investigative journalism was, unfortunately, governance without accountability. To regain access to government advertisement and the financial spoils that come with it, the private media became more private and less independent. There is an adage that the pen, and this comes from you, the pen is mightier than the sword. The adage symbolizes the need for courage in the work of a journalist. The pursuit of financial resources, or to be in a better financial position to be able to support your operations, meant that while the pen is supposed to be mightier than the advert. The advert has been mightier than the pen holder. Coming to regulation, and even before formalized regulation, the might of the advert against the might of the pen has led to self-regulation by yourselves. The greatest threat to press freedom is self-preservation on the part of the private media in the form of self-censorship. And this is brought about not by a desire to do so, but rather an existential threat to yourselves because you operate in a very hostile economic environment. For purpose of our discussion today, the regulatory framework in this jurisdiction, and insofar as it impacts on free press, is found in a number of statutes. Pardon me. We will give a few examples. The Constitution of Botswana guarantees the right to receive information on the part of the consumer public, that is to receive information, and the right on the part of media practitioners to disseminate and share information, and that is in terms of Section 12 of the Constitution. Then you have the Penal Code, which contains provisions. I'm not going to, because I'm not a discussant, I'm just highlighting, making pointers. Then you have the Penal Code, which has got provisions which provides or deal with things like criminal defamation. You have provisions in the National Security Act, the Cyber and Computer-Related Crimes Act, that the Data Protection Act of 2024, then recently the Access to Information Act of 2024. And that act is still to be, or to come into effect, if ever it will. Then you have other acts like the Official Secrets Act, and many others that have been mentioned by some of the speakers who have come before me. And as already stated, the Section 12 of the Constitution, in relation to the press, provides for the right to disseminate and share information, and the public's right to receive such information without hindrance. Maybe the question that arises is the content of such rights in relation to the duty on the part of those holding public information to permit access thereto. Against that, you now have to weigh in the rights, or factor in the rights of any person as right to privacy and their good name. And that's where now you start having the laws dealing with defamation. And you also have situations where those holding public information in public offices, your offices refuse to avail such information. The absence of a duty to avail information of a public nature and interest by those holding such information leads to opacity in governance, the very antithesis, in my view, of good governance. And under the veil of that opacity, there is secrecy and unjustifiable or unjustified confidentiality. Then you have the melting pot of corruption behind that veil. It thrives. The right of the ordinary citizen against defamation arising from false publication is protected by the law of defamation under the common law. Now, with all this act, I'm not going to be going into the various sections, what they say. I think it's a topic for another day when you will invite me to come and be a discussant. Today I'm not, so I will hide under the fact that I'm not a discussant. I'll just highlight issues. You look for those provisions and deal with them. Now, behind all that, there is the dilemma of the journalist. I think the gentleman who was here, you will think we shared notes. No, we didn't. It means what we are speaking about here today, we have shared views about it. There is a common understanding. There is the dilemma of journalists. You all know, as media practitioners, that news is a perishable commodity, which requires expedition in its dissemination. That is why when you are running against deadlines, or you have a real story, you know, the kind that you really want to break and even break our hearts, you may not even have time to confirm or verify with the persons affected to give them the journalistic right of reply. And that is why at the end, you may find yourselves pitted against lawsuits, either by private citizens or other persons, or even business, where they will be suing you for defamation because you didn't verify what you went out to write. But the reason why you'll be rushing is not because you really want to defame. You are just saying news is perishable. If you keep it for a long time, it goes stale, isn't it? So you need to break it or strike the iron while it's still hot. And sometimes it's so hot that it even burns the holder, isn't it? And this often places journalists in a space where they have to do a precarious balance between meeting deadlines and also trying to protect the rights of those affected by their stories. And this is where sometimes, like I've said, journalists come into conflict with the law and those that they wish to inform, leading, as I have said, to criminal defamation, violation of laws regulating state secrets, and the personality rights of those concerned. This brings us to the fine line between the journalist's right to inform and that protection, that is your protection, against what you yourselves have referred to as SLAP lawsuits. That is strategic lawsuits against public participation, which are really lawsuits filed sometimes just to intimidate you, or even to try to silence critics, and often targeting journalists, activists, and watchdogs involved in investigative journalism. The mainstream media in the brave new world is confronted by a new player who answers to no editorial authority, no regulation, no accountability, no responsibility, but who has free access to information in the form of social media influencers. In this space, the dubious distinction of unbridled, unaccountable, and pernicious journalism, at least in our case in Botswana, it belonged to a certain character, none other than Museveni, who at some point seemed to enjoy acclaim from the unsuspecting public as a reliable news breaker. Are there anyone of you who attended the legal year opening ceremony? Any? Raise your hands. Okay. I'm not going to keep you here for the whole night. So in conclusion, now you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm not going to keep you here for the whole night. So in conclusion, I would like to once again thank you for the invite. I also acknowledge that you are currently engaged with government to come up with a more progressive legislation that will truly promote access to information. Please, as you engage in that exercise, do so in the knowledge that nothing will come to you on a silver platter. You will have to fight for what is rightfully yours. That is the right to disseminate information without any inhibition, as the Constitution dictates. And as you engage with government for media-friendly laws, you must also be looking at demanding that this anniversary, your anniversary, celebrating your very marvelous job of being media practitioners, must be part of the public calendar as a public holiday that we can use to educate and sensitize the public on your role as the press. The digital world of today and the advent of social media mean that we have a more onerous task to win the public, not win them, to win the public from consuming bad news on social platforms, and win that very same public to consume your more sellable and reliable product in the form of responsible journalism. With those few remarks, I wish to thank you for your kind attention, and thank you so very much. Ula.